Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry is the culty church that I joined, and in my third year internship, I ended up receiving a prophetic word saying that God was giving me to my ex-husband, who ended up being an abuser. Here's where we left off. The marriage has turned extremely abusive at this point, and we moved out to Atlanta, Georgia, so that he can pursue his dream of becoming a film director and owning the entire company of Disney. Dream big. Despite the fact that I am experiencing a lot of dark abuse in my personal life, I was really enjoying my time in Atlanta. I had started reading a bunch of books, which was helping my mental health a lot. And honestly, having all of those hours away from him, having a place to go to work where you're on set for maybe 15 hours a day, was really helping my mental health. My fibromyalgia was starting to get better. I was still seeing a bunch of specialists to try to figure out what was going on, but it was manageable. So despite the fact that I was always in pain, I was able to walk through the pain, and I actually decided to take up running. Mostly because I started reading a bunch of self-help books, and in my mind, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do something very hard. So this hobby really took off for me, and if you know me, you know I've run 3 marathons now, and it is my biggest accomplishment in the whole world. But at this point, I was not running that far. Okay, I was running a 5K, but that was a huge personal accomplishment for me. But that wasn't the only exciting thing going on, because I had actually just gotten a job to be a stand-in. So a stand-in is a step up from a background actor. Background actors, they would pretty much hire anybody to do that, but a stand-in was more specific because you were supposed to look like one of the main actors. So what they would do would be to try to find somebody who is the same height, same skin color, same hair color, and they would have you stand there on the actor's mark so that they could set up the lights. That way the actor didn't have to be there for all of that pre-filming work. I ended up being a stand-in for this lady here. I was so excited that I was able to book this job, and it was a very high for me in Atlanta, because most background actors are hoping to get a step up. And somebody did ask me if I acted. No, and I've actually never acted. Really, I took a drama thing maybe in middle school, but this was mostly just for fun. But when you are a stand-in, you're getting treated really well, and it was just a fun time of my life. Ted didn't like it when good things happened to me. He felt very jealous. He felt like maybe I was surpassing him, and I would notice that the abuse would get worse and worse whenever I was getting better. Say I ran a 5K, that would make him feel really mad, and then he would start being more abusive, or me getting this stand-in job made him feel some kind of way because it felt like I was succeeding in this area that he was really wanting to get into. This specific stand-in job was a couple weeks long, so remember, we are sharing a car, so he came and picked me up from my job, and as we were driving home, some arguments started. I don't remember. Honestly, these arguments are so hazy to me. I don't remember hardly any of the things that we fought about, but I do know that there was some sort of argument, and we came home, and I was laying in bed, and he would not let me go to sleep. And it was so late at night because, you're filming really late into the night, and then our call time was going to be, I think, at 6 in the morning. So I really needed to get some sleep. And remember, my fibromyalgia would get worse if I didn't get good sleep. So he was actively trying to get me to stay awake. So I'm laying in bed, and he is continuing to argue with me and not let me sleep, and then all of a sudden he came and charged at me. So he had been standing by the door, I was laying in the bed, and he charged at me, and he ended up strangling me for the first time. And I did not fight back. I just went very limp because I was shocked that he would do this. I mean, I know at this point there had been some physical things going on, but this was another level. This is something that I genuinely never thought that he would ever do. It had not crossed my mind. And so he ended up getting up, and I'm in shock, and all of a sudden he is on the floor, and he is crying and saying, please forgive me, I'm such a bad person." And he is hysterically crying on the floor, and I am in this daze of, wait, what just happened? Because if you've ever experienced domestic violence, you know that there's this moment where you realize that this action cannot be taken back. There's a certain boundary that has been crossed, and at this point, you can't undo it. So I didn't know what to do, so I get on the floor and I am like, it's okay. Which, what? Okay. And I'm like, it's okay. So this is something that would happen with Ted continually, is whenever he was very abusive, he would start crying and he would say that he was such a bad person. And I would get on the floor and I would try to assure him that he was not a bad person. And it was just this very, very toxic trauma bonding cycle. I didn't make any promises to him that I was going to stay with him because I really didn't know what I was going to do. I felt isolated because I was obviously in Atlanta and my entire family is in Texas, and I have my job tomorrow, but this horrible assault has just taken place and it hurts every time I swallow and I'm scared. But I also didn't want to hold him too accountable because I didn't know if that would make him mad and then maybe he would attack me again. So all of these thoughts are just running through my brain, and we ended up going to bed and I went to work in the morning. This was a little bit later in the day, but when I first got to work, I had to stare into her eyes for this scene that we were setting up. And she was my friend at the time, and I was tearing up and she was like, what's wrong? And the crew is walking around us and I'm so embarrassed that I can't keep it together. And I think I did end up telling her that my husband had put his hands around my throat. And that's all I could bring myself to say. But I was just embarrassed that I wasn't able to be professional or hold it together. And it really was during this time when I started to realize that there is a very good chance that I was going to have to get divorced, or if I did not get divorced, that there was a likelihood that Ted could end up killing me. I ended up going home and getting on Reddit, which I still love Reddit, but man, they can be toxic on there. And I had posted, is this abuse? My husband did this. And I just got so many hateful messages saying, well, what'd you do to piss him off? And this isn't fair. We're only hearing one side of the story. And I felt like I was reaching out because I felt like I could not talk to anybody in my life, because if I told them what was going on, then they would make me leave. That is what I was thinking. And I just was not ready to leave at that point. And then I just have all these trolls telling me that this is my fault. So I ended up deciding to stay, but I did tell him that if he ever laid his hands on me ever again, then I would be getting divorced. Next, I'm going to talk about how I was hired to be a celebrity nanny during this time and how that sort of played a role in the end of our marriage as well. And also, I still need